going on right now. What is the deal with that?
Man, it's just interesting time in the history of the United States of America. That's probably the best thing I can say.
That's a very careful way to say that.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm not gonna remain careful as we move forward. But I feel like it's an interesting time, man. Interesting time.
How are you doing? You've been like this summer's been wild for you just personally. You're in the hospital, you're out, how are you doing?
You know, I'm doing so much better, man. I got some insight from a couple of people who are really close to me, and they helped me kind of change my diet and help what I was putting into my body and all that stuff. And I'm feeling young again, feeling young again.
Hallelujah. That's good. Um, yeah, there's man, I just feel like there's so much for us to talk about. It's hard to dive in or know where to start. Like you said, there's so much going on right now in America, and there's so many things that people are um, just distrustful of. So I think I want to start there. Like right now, there is so much disunity in our country. There's so much um, antagonism, and
Sure.
how do we bring it together?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start this conversation. I always say this. Nobody's perfect.
Hmm.
People make mistakes all the time. Um, and the challenge with that is we need to figure out how to have a little bit of grace, um, a whole lot of love, and probably more importantly, figure out how we can e- exist and love one another instead of just tolerate each other, if that makes sense.
How do we move towards that when it feels like the stakes are so high and everybody, it's like, hey, if you vote for this person, you're destroying America. If you vote for that person or you're a part of this, you're destroying America. Where the stakes feel so high, it feels like there's no compromise available because it's all or nothing.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that's the world that we live in. We created this society when I was growing up, graduated high school in '91. Um, it really wasn't this divided. It really wasn't that way. Um, Unfortunately, and I hate to say it, but the truth is the truth. It comes down to the leadership of our country.
Hmm.
It just does. And if you're um, feeling that we're divided, well, it's because the people who are leading the country have created a place for us to start feeling divided. Republicans and Democrats don't want to talk. Um, Christians, non-Christians don't want to talk. Um, Blacks and whites don't want to talk. It's interesting, and so for me, just my perspective, I think part of it comes back to how can we find a way to have real conversations about stuff that's relevant in a time where we need to be relevant. This is a time where we need to be relevant.
Hmm. How are
All right.
you embracing those conversations right now? I mean, I know you're on the front line of that all the time. How do you help manage and make those conversations that are so critical if we're going to come together happen?
Yeah, I
I'm,
think I
I'm
think
scared to talk about stuff half the time because it feels like as soon as you say something, you're blasted. I talked about Breonna Taylor last week on the radio, and a guy called me, and I was really glad he did. But he's like, Brian, you're being divisive because you labeled her as a black woman. And I'm like, but this is part of the narrative. Like that's part of the issue that's going on. And we talked for like
Right.
15 minutes. And the great thing was like by the time we got to the end of it, we were a lot closer than when we started. Um,
Sure.
but but it took a lot of, it took 15 minutes. And fortunately it was in a place where I could do that on the and I didn't play it. Obviously 15 minutes is a long time. Um, but it took us a while to get there and go, well, maybe this is more than um just a police story or just a news story. Maybe there is a racial component in it somehow.
Sure. Well, and again, to answer your first question, I think we have to be willing to get to know people.
Mhm.
That's part of the challenge. Everybody is in this mindset that we can put stuff in the microwave and it'll be cooked. No, you got to start investing time. You have to start um, finding out about their family and how old are their children. And I mean, that's how you build relationships. You don't build relationships any other way. And so for me, I'm trying to get people to understand this concept that I'm going to speak at CSI coming up, and I'm gonna talk to them about cognitive dissonance, where sometimes from a cognitive perspective, we it doesn't really matter what's being said because we've gone too far in the story, and so we're just gonna do it regardless. We have to stop being victims of this idea of cognitive dissonance because the reality is that's why we're divided. It's not anything else other than people saying, well, I've gone this far, so I'm going to stay there. Come on, man. If you make a mistake, when I was growing up, I'm going to go back to my time in high school. Uh, you have to own the mistake and then try to rectify the mistake,
Mhm.
period. That's
Mhm.
it. Like there is no other. So if you're wrong about something, don't just continue to be wrong about it. Evaluate it, process it, figure out what the next step is, and then if you're wrong, change directions.
Okay, Derek, I hear you there, but
Sorry.
here's the thing that you don't understand, right? I'm right. So you're telling me I might be wrong, but I'm not because I've been holding on to this belief for a long time. I know that it's right. Everybody else is wrong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's cognitive dissonance. That's
Right.
what it is.
So how
That's
do
what.
I, because cognitive dissonance, I select the facts that I want to hold on to that I believe in.
Right,
So if I see something, I go, well, obviously that happened because of X.
right,
I'm justifying it. It's really difficult to even get to that place. Like I can look at you and point out your cognitive dissonance really easily. You're an
right,
idiot, but
right,
but I'm super
right,
smart. And the less that I know about something, and this is true, the less that I know about something, the smarter I am about it. Like I can tell you
right.
how to fix the economy. I'm not an economist. You know, I know nothing about it. I will tell you. And I will tell you how you should run your life, and as a black man, how you should live.
Oh,
Well,
right, right,
white dude over here, I've never lived but it's easy for me to sit in judgment, right? It's hard to go, well, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe I don't have all the answers.
right. And
You know?
and I appreciate you saying that, Brian, because that's the reality. That's the world that we live in right now, and we have to, unfortunately, humble ourselves and go. You know what? Maybe I'm not right.
Mhm.
Maybe I'm not right now. And if I'm not right, let me really process what's happening right now, especially in this time. I'm a firm believer, I've been saying this for a while. Um, Whenever there are difficult and challenging times, then you got to make difficult and challenging decisions. It doesn't
Unpack.
really matter what. Yeah, yeah. It doesn't really matter what it is. It can be personally. It could be, um, what's happening in the world. It can be your football team, basketball. All that stuff is relevant because when things get, um, not the status quo. When things aren't the status quo, people don't understand, to get things back to where it should be. You got to make decisions that will challenge you emotionally, spiritually, and sometimes physically.
Okay, so, but Derek, see, mm, I got a challenge with you, brother. Okay, love
Please.
you, but challenge because I look around and see where we are, and I go, I'm living life pretty good, but there's a bunch of idiots out there,
Sure.
and the idiots are screwing it up. Like it's really difficult for me to accept that I might be part of the problem because I'm doing the best I can. Those idiots shouldn't be doing that.
And you know what's funny? And I love where you're going with it because you're right. There are people who have different agendas and different um, ideas that they're trying to accomplish. But the reality is, your experience and my experience is totally different. It just is. And
Mhm,
so don't judge me. Don't judge me. I'm not judging you.
mhm.
So if that's the scenario, if that's the situation that we're in, let's find ways for us to start to really get to know each other and help each other and help this country become special. That's really what it should be. This country should be special. But right now, because of the divisiveness that's happening across our country, we're struggling. We're having so many challenges. And then here's the other thing I want to make sure I say this because I think it's important. Today, I'm the head basketball coach at Caldwell. Today was the first day that our students went to school, physically went to school.
Mhm.
Um, and so, they're in a classroom right now. I'm sure everybody's there and everybody's, concerned. But not only are they concerned, we're in a pandemic, and then we have racial tensions. We have, it's so many things right now that divide our country. It's weird.
Mhm.
It's weird. It's weird.
Yeah.
Sorry, I get a little bit fired up, as you can
Come on.
tell.
Come on, brother. Come on. It's okay. So there are so many racial tensions. There are so many pandemic. You can't. I can't go on the radio right now and make a statement for or against face masks. Without people getting
Right,
all offended. Somebody. Either I'm trying to kill grandma or I'm giving into fascism. Like it doesn't
right.
matter. You can't say anything right now without somebody getting their panties in a wad. Like it gets intense. Um, for little us in Idaho, and we're seeing unrest and we're seeing riots and we're seeing whatever. What what do I do in my life to make a difference? I feel like so many people are just like, there's nothing I can do. These problems are bigger than me. I can't do anything.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem right there. I mean, you always can do something. You always can do something. And unfortunately, we're seeing what's happening in Portland and Seattle and across the country. And I mean, here's the reality: uh, um, Idaho is right down the road,
Huh?
right?
Hmm.
I mean, you can come straight down the road and be in Boise. And so my point is if that's happening there, why couldn't that happen here? And so we have to really be proactive in what we're doing. We really have to start having real conversations. I had sent out a proposal because the Boise State football games were canceled. Now they're coming back, and I had sent out a proposal to do a show on a number of things on Channel 7, and unfortunately, it's not going to happen. But we should be having real conversations, courageous conversations, difficult conversations to help build our country. But people don't really want to do it because if it's not impacting them right now, it's not relevant, and that's a problem. That's a problem.
Let me ask you a question, and we may not
Sure.
use this on air or even in a we may cut this out before we post it anywhere. I feel like again, like I said, it feels like landmines no matter where you step. But I got questions. I want answers. I feel like we still got to hang in person, but I feel like you and I connect. So I'm going to ask you this: there has been a lot of protesting because of racial unrest, right? There's also been this looting and anarchy stuff. Why is it that leadership um, among a lot of black leaders, and maybe it's just not being covered in the media, I don't know. Why are there not more condemnation of the looting and the rioting? Because I'm all for the protesting. Like it's one way that we as Americans make our voices heard. We disrupt the status quo. We have a legacy of it that goes, back to our founding. But when there's this ongoing, continual, destruction, the images come out of cities that are torn up, it's hard to be as empathetic at that point. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
sure. No, and I think again, I love your question, and the reality is it's unfortunate, but we have to find ways to forgive people, even when they're making mistakes. And the other thing is, in the black community, you know, I got invited to a meeting as one of the black leaders here in Boise. Um, a number of leaders showed up, and I was present. And the black community is tired. We're tired. We're tired, and people don't want to accept that. When something that has been happening for 400 plus years and all of this crazy stuff that's been happening, at some point people are going to have enough. They've had enough. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you see the looting and the anger, and this is the irony of it all, when people can't, share their ideas and thoughts, the first response is anger. So if it's anger, yeah, I'm gonna do some stuff that I probably shouldn't be doing. Instead of trying to figure out, okay, how can we make this world a better place? And so, it's no disrespect um, to the white community, but as far as the black community, people are angry. They're angry, man.
And I get that, and again, this is just my heart processing all this stuff. I think of, and I'm going to butcher the quote here, but I think of Martin Luther talking about, right is the language of the hurting people or something along those lines, like people that
Right,
had not been heard. And I get that, like at some point it explodes. But I also feel like, if you get any group of friends together, um, you got that one guy who's like the calm, calculated person, and he's got his, head buried deep into books and spreadsheets. You got that one guy who's the joker, and doesn't matter what's going on, he's going to crack a joke. You got that one hothead who's just an idiot and goes off on people. He's the guy who's going to start a fight before it needs to happen. You got all these range of people. At some point, if you're getting yourself into trouble as a group, one of the other people looks at the hothead and goes, "Dude, chill, calm down." Right?
right,
You're now going too far. We got to rein this back, because I can't imagine as a white middle aged guy. I can't imagine what it's like to be at the end of 400 years of going. I'm trying to fight my way into equality and just basic
right.
respect. And again, I've told this story on air, but I think of a friend of mine. She's black. She's in a biracial marriage. She was going over to a friend of hers house, whose husband is a police officer, a white woman, and her husband gets this phone call. One of my friends going over to see her says, "Hey, do you know there's a black woman in your neighborhood?" And that police officer, the husband of the friend that my friend's going to visit, is like, "That's my wife's friend. They've been friends since high school. Slow your roll. Like it's okay. And you're stupid. Why are you doing
Right.
this?" So, and that's here in Meridian. That's here in Idaho. That's not
Oh, I already know. I already
for
know.
that's not somewhere else. Well, I say that because I think a lot of a lot of my people, um, we're blind to it. We don't know that that's even happening because we don't see it. It doesn't impact us, right? So if you've got 400 years of, and that's a small thing, but if you got at some point it's gonna explode. It's gonna go like you're saying, "Hey, we got to have this." But how do we calm this down? I mean, I feel like I want to bring people together and say, listen to the story. It was funny when I was talking with this guy for 15 minutes on the phone that called in a few days ago. We're talking about Breonna Taylor. And I said, look at this. I said, think about this. let's say that you're a carpenter, which was funny because he was a carpenter and I didn't know that. I said, what if you're a carpenter and every time you walk into a store, people look at you different because you're a carpenter? At a certain point, you go, carpenters' lives are important, and you start to react to that, and it becomes a part of the news story. Another
Right.
carpenter was shot when he went to Walmart. Like, that's an issue. And he went, oh, okay, I get that. Like, that starts to make a little bit of sense to me. And I go, that's what's happening in the black community. Like, it's been going on. And so, yes, the Breonna Taylor thing could be argued it was a police issue, not a racial issue, but that's on 400 years of this stuff happening all the time.
Right.
So now
Right.
it is an issue of race. And yes, it's an issue of a police process that, I'm glad to hear that there's some reforms going on. I'm glad to hear that they're outlawing no knock warrants. That just seems like a stupid idea for everybody. Um, to go
No
barging into
question.
somebody's house. And I do that in Idaho here. It's going to be a gun battle. Are you kidding me?
Right.
Doesn't matter who
Right.
that's just a bad police thing, in my opinion. And I'm not a police officer, so it's easy for me to have an opinion on it. But I feel like sorry, I'm not giving you much chance to talk here. Let me wind this down into a question.
No, it's
Um,
good.
I think at some point we've got to somehow try to bring people together. And as tired as the black community is, and I respect that, at some point somebody's got to say, guys, you're hurting yourself. You've seen the poll stuff, at the beginning of the summer when a lot of this stuff was happening, and there was a lot of support for racial reconciliation. And that poll data is moving the other way because white people are going, why are they burning their own town? This doesn't make any sense to me.
Right. Right. Well, first and foremost, I agree. You said a lot of stuff right there, and I know it's good because I like that we're having these type of conversations, man. This is how it should be.
Right.
For me, I'm gonna go back a little bit. As you know, I speak all over the world. One of my clients is in Scottsdale, Arizona, um, and I was doing a presentation. And I remember when I was getting ready to do the presentation, it was all presidents there. So I had on a suit. I was setting up my PowerPoint, getting everything organized. And the guy came up to me and said, when is a motivational speaker showing up? Okay. This has been going on much longer than people even realize. But people don't want to talk about it because it doesn't impact them directly. Here in Idaho, we're in a safe place. The majority of our population is white. There's a Latino population, and there's a very small black population. So a lot of people haven't even been around diversity. They
Mm-hmm.
haven't even been around it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's which is even more weird to me. I've been here for 22 years. 22 years. I've done everything from being a college coach to now I'm a high school coach to being with the Idaho Stampede. Like I've done all that stuff. And the reason I've been able to do it is because I was able to build relationships.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody wants to talk about that. Hold on for a second. My daughter, come here, JJ. I want you to see my daughter because she wants to be on the call. Say hi, baby. Say hi.
Hi, JJ. How you
Yeah,
doing?
she's just being a kid. You know, Today they don't have to have school, so they just having a ball.
Nice.
But my point is this. I do agree with what you're saying, and I do believe that the Black Lives Matter, the NAACP, the ACLU, all these people that I got a chance to connect with, I do think we're gonna figure out how we can have a message that's consistent so that people don't just do dumb stuff. And that's
Mm.
me being 100% real. People are doing dumb stuff, and we don't need people to do dumb stuff. We need people to be very strategic and also to make sure, as far as the police issue, yeah, I'm not saying defund the police. I'm saying we need to have reforms. Like
Mm.
we need to make sure that the police are prepared to do their job. And if they're not prepared, then bring in another resource so that they can be prepared. I just think, for us to move this dial is what I call it. For us to move this dial, we're gonna have to have some real conversations, and people gonna have to really listen. Sorry.
No, no, man, I'm so with you, man. No, it's this is good. Um, I think my question from that is, there's so many rabbit holes I want to run down. Like I want to run down the police reform thing because I think, you said something profound that my a friend of mine and I were talking right when that, the defund police thing started to come out. We're like, have you been to a third world country? Do you really want to defund the police?
Right.
Um, you know,
Right.
we've seen things on the other side. On the other hand, in a lot of places in our country, there's some very bad apples and there's bad policies. Like you could talk
Sure.
about, which we mentioned a few minutes ago, the uh, the late night raids with the no knock raids. That seems to me to be putting police lives at risk.
Right.
There's all these kinds of things, but you think about the load that police officers have because they have to be mental health professionals. They got to go in and try to calm down a family that's in the middle of a fight. We're asking them to be Jesus in a lot of ways. Like everything. And so giving them support and resources and other people on the team that can specialize in things seems to me to make a lot of sense because the guy that you want, running down a criminal may not be the same guy that you want, walking into a mental health issue, whatever.
Right.
Um, so I'm totally with that. So as a in Idaho, in this s- state that we're in, um, how do we how do we bring people together? How do we
Yeah.
have those conversations?
Another phenomenal question that you're asking. I mean, you know, I think part of it is, and people don't want to talk about this, but this is another piece of the puzzle. Our egos. Everybody has these egos that makes them think that they have all the solutions. Um, Come on, man.
Hmm.
If everybody had all the solutions, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now.
Hmm.
So for me, I've been very blessed. I'm only going to speak from my perspective. I have relationships with Joe Huff at Nampa, Frank Wyatt at Caldwell, um, Boone when he was at Boise. I haven't met the new person, but um, Jeff Levy at Meridian. Like I have relationships with all those guys. I had to have those relationships because for me, there's so many things that's happening right now, and I hate to say this, I always feel like as a black person who lives in the state of Idaho, uh, I don't want to ever put myself at risk of being killed, murdered, shot 15 times in the chest. Like I don't want that to be my story, if that makes sense. And
Right.
so I've been blessed enough to build those relationships, and people were willing to listen to me. But this is the irony of that. Everybody's not me. Everybody's not me. So if you just got here from, Maryland or from, North Carolina or Tennessee, and you're moving to Idaho, and there's more job opportunities and Amazon's building and all that stuff, they don't know. They have no idea. And so I do think we have to find a way to have a town hall meeting with law enforcement, with leaders, with the Latino leaders. I mean, I think to keep the state of Idaho safe, um, we got to have some real conversations, man. I just got invited to speak at Filer to all of their students coming up. I got a lot of stuff going on right now, man. And
Good.
yeah, it's good because um, they want me to come talk to them about the racial challenges that we're facing, the COVID-19, mental health. Like it's a lot of stuff, and that's why I keep laughing because we're in a very interesting time. There's no question about it. We're in a very interesting time, and this is the funniest thing about it. I'm a firm believer that whoever we're talking about becoming better and growing and developing and expanding our minds and becoming better people, but we'll be able to really see if people are being racist. We'll be able to see based on their character, based on their character. And so if you don't really want to talk to me because you're afraid of me, or you have this idea about me, or I look like I was a football player or something, come on, man. Let's just have a conversation, get to know me.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Every once in a while I get a little bit fired up.
Moment. Come on. That's what we want. I want the real Derek Bowles. So we're at the time that I told you we'd wrap up. I'm wondering if I can ask you one more question.
Sure.
Uh, every time something hits the headlines, everybody races and, gets up in arm, changes their social media status, whatever, we support, we're there, whatever. What we want to see is long-term change. We want to see restoration. It's been, in the race issue, it's been 400 years of this. We want something different. How do we continue to keep this not in that panic mode of, oh, it's the, news frenzy cycle thing, but how do we keep moving the ball down the court steadily so that we keep seeing change happen right here in Idaho and across our country?
Yeah, again, you're asking some phenomenal questions, and the reality is, as you know, I'm a coach.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, the, the game, whether it's football, basketball, tennis, we have times where we do really good, and then we have times when we do really bad. We can't get caught up in that media cycle, and like you said, change our Facebook status and all. Like, we need to be thinking, okay, if you want to make change, you have to start with the people at the bottom. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. Who's ever at the bottom, we need to be having conversations, because for it to be long term, remember, last year I was a coach at Caldwell. They've only won one game in the last 4 years. One game. I came in, we finished sixth, made it to the second round of districts, lost to Valley View, and we should have won that game. But it didn't start. It didn't start with me coming in saying that I had all the solutions. The first thing that I had to do, and I'm being 100% real with you, I had to find out who was our best player, who was our worst player, and I had to start at the bottom and build from there. Nobody wants to start at the bottom because it makes them uncomfortable. Well, if you want to change what's happening in the state of Idaho, you're going to have to start at the bottom, man. You're going to have to sacrifice your personal gain, your wealth, your life, and figure out, how can I find ways to connect with people who aren't in the same situation that I'm in, and not just do it because it's the best thing for me. Do it because it's the right thing to do. Yeah, that's some stuff that people don't want to talk about, but it's just the truth. And so everybody's talking about Idaho's this great state and this and that. Really, really. Yeah, you saw how I looked into the into the phone,
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to make sure I communicate that, because I do think this place has been great. It's been great for me. It's been a blessing. But the reality is everything that's happening across our country could easily be happening in Boise. So we need to be diligent to make sure that that doesn't happen. We have to be. And if
Mm-hmm.
we're not, then we're going to face the same thing that everybody else is facing. And that's real talk.
And that happens by looking out for each other, helping those that are not as in the same position that we are, and and intentionally reaching out to have those conversations. Is not going to
Yeah.
happen by stronger show of force, because force never changes hearts. Force
No.
can contain and control, but force doesn't change hearts and culture.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And the reality is not about, people being angry. It's about, like you said before, and I'm going to support what you're saying. It's about impacting hearts.
Mhm.
That's
Well,
it.
good. Go ahead.
No.
I was going to say, I'll tell you what, man. I want to, we want to be a part of continuing these conversations. And I want to give you an open door that if you get people together that we need to just put together and have conversations, we want to be a forum to do that through social media, put some stuff on air. If there's people that are championing being out there having these conversations or reaching out, we want to celebrate those stories together, and you bring them to us. We'd love to highlight them um, because I think that's what we can do as a radio station, as a media, as a project community that's about change. We can celebrate, we can reinforce those stories that are happening, and we can be a forum to have some of those conversations that need to happen.
Sure, absolutely. No,
Well, thank you, brother. I'm
absolutely.
going to let you go because I know you were busy. You got a lot going on. Plus, you got kids not at school today. Thank you, COVID. Uh, and you got school coming back at Caldwell. So, congratulations on being able to get back in with the kids. And thank
Yep,
you for what you're doing in mentoring and leading them. I think there's so much hope in our next generation that wants to see change and wants to see us break down the divides that come against us, come between us.
absolutely. And the only thing that I'll leave you with is, you know, more importantly, we have to be willing to humble ourselves, have some grace, and probably the biggest thing, show a little bit of love.
Mm,
That's it.
amen. Thank you, brother. You have a great day. Let's talk again
All
soon.
right. Take
Thank
care.
you.
Uh-huh.